Hello everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. Today is going to be a fun day. We are going to start our Bella Box projects. And the first project we're going to work on is this adorable Welcome to My Happy Place door hanger. I'm excited to work on this. In fact, so much so, I'm going to show you how to make it in two sizes. We're going to make the large size first, and then I'll go back and make the small size. So we want one of each size. All right, so let's go ahead and head to the machine and let's get started stitching. All right, we're at the machine and ready to get started. I have put a bobbin with white thread down below. And then I've loaded my 8x12 hoop with a piece of wash-away stabilizer. And if you don't have any wash-away stabilizer, Kimberbell has an amazing wash-away stabilizer that you can use for this project. We want wash-away stabilizer because when we stitch out the door hanger, we're going to dissolve the stabilizer around the edges so nothing will show. So you don't want to use a regular stabilizer, you want to use wash-away, okay? So I'm also using my 8x12 hoop because I'm doing the large door hanger. If you have a 6x10 hoop, you can use that. I have a Baby Lock Destiny machine, which is identical to the Brother Dream machine, and I don't have a 6x10 hoop on this. I go right from my 9-inch hoop up to a 8x12. So I have to use my 8x12 for this, okay? I want you to get your plastic pouch system out that you have labeled door hanger, and I want you to get all of the fabrics out for this project because today we're doing the door hanger. And I have enough to do 2 of these. So all I want you to do for right now is pull out what you need to make one of these and set the rest aside. So I only need one of the white, which we'll use for the top, and one of the cute dark teal print, which we will use for the back side. And this is from the fabric that's in the Bella box. I love how these coordinate. All right, now what you need to do is you need to turn these over and you need to fuse or press a piece of fusible backing to the back of each of these 2 pieces. Why do you need to do that, you say? When you put a piece of fusible on the back side, you're supporting the cotton fabric. You're giving it more strength and allowing the cotton to be able to handle more stitches without puckering. This is all about preventing puckering. And I find that as long as I put a piece of fusible on the back of my cotton, I don't have puckers. Okay, so that's a very important step in helping your cotton fabric be able to handle all the stitches that we're going to give it. Kimberbell has a wonderful fusible backing that you can use for this. It works great. I love it. If you don't have any of that on hand, you can use a Paylon 860F or an SF101. So any one of those will work. Okay, I want you to fuse both of these pieces. So I'm going to put both of these to one side and my little piece of fabric applique that we're going to do. And now I'm going to load white thread in the top of my machine to match my white bobbin down below. And that's what we're going to start stitching with. Okay, so I've got my white thread loaded. Now let's go to my screen camera and let's load the design. Okay, I've got my Baby Lock Destiny machine here. So if you have something similar, you can follow along. I'm going to click on Embroidery. And I keep all my designs on a flash drive. So I'm going to click the symbol down here for the flash drive. I am looking for the Bella Box April 2025, which is this folder right here. And then I have everything in the subfolders. I am looking for the Happy Place door hanger. That's what we're doing in this video. And the first one I want to stitch out is my 6x10. If you only have a 5x7, you can stay tuned later in this video where I'm also going to stitch out the 5x7. I'm going to stitch out one of each. All right. The steps will be kind of the same, it's just the hoop will be slightly different. All right. Okay, so the one I'm going to stitch first is my 6 by 10. There we go. Welcome to my happy place. I don't need to do anything to it. It's 16,000 stitches, about 34 minutes, and it's coming in at 9.41 by 3.79, which is the one I want. Click Set. I don't have to do anything else to it, and I'm going to click Embroidery. There we go. So now let's go back to the hoop cam and let's get started stitching. The first stitch it's going to stitch out is the placement line for the flexi foam. So while we're stitching this out, go to your Bella box and get out this piece of flexi foam that they included in that. I love the fact that they give you all the components you need to do the project except for your stabilizer and your threads. I just love that. So get your piece of flexi foam out because we'll need that for the next step. All right, so let's get going. Let's put the foot down. I've got white bobbin thread down below and white thread up on top. And let's stitch out the placement line. Here we go. Foot down and let's go. All right, so now you see the white stitched outline. You're going to take your piece of flexi foam, you're going to open it up, and you're going to place it over each end and all the sides, and you want to cover that placement line. All right, double check I've got it. I've got the top and the bottom and a little bit over on the sides. And then you're going to take some of the Kimberbell tape, which they included in the Bella box. Again, I love that. Oops, just tear it off. Doesn't have to be pretty looking. It just has to hold everything in place. There we go. A piece on the side. And a piece on the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a small piece down here on the bottom as well that is slightly off camera. So I put tape on 3 sides. That's just basically going to hold it in place so it doesn't move around. It's probably not going to move around much anyway because it's got kind of a texture grip to it, but we don't want it to move at all. So I'm going to go ahead and just apply the tape. Okay, now still using the white thread you have up on top, I'm going to put the foot down and we're going to stitch this flexi foam down. All right, here we go. All right, isn't that cool? So I'm going to take the hoop gently off the machine so I can work with it a little bit better. I want to take off the tape, and I'm just going to put this attached to the end of my table because I could probably reuse that tape for the second door hanger that I'm going to do later in this video. And this was caught a little bit in the stitching, no problem. It tears away nice and clean. Don't you love it? Right. Okay, so now I want to use a pair of applique scissors, or my favorite, these are the Havel curved scissors. All right, I get these on Amazon and there'll be a link in the description below just in case you need some. I love them because they curve upward and it allows me to trim close to the edge here, but without puncturing the wash away stabilizer down below. If you had straight scissors, it would be a lot easier to puncture the bottom, which you don't want to do. The curved scissors help you stay upwards so that you don't puncture the stabilizer below. All right, so I'm going to move this to one side. Let's get this off so you can see. There, can you guys see better? All right, so now I'm going to just trim real close to the edge of that stitch line. I don't want to puncture the stitches, so I'm just going to go as close as I can without puncturing those stitches. Okay. And I'm just going to go straight for the moment. There we go. I'm going to put this piece off to one side because I might be able, maybe, to get the smaller door hanger out of that piece. Maybe. All right. So now I want you to take this over to a table so you have something a little bit easier to work with. And I want you to trim all the way around the outside of this door hanger as close to the outside stitch line as you can get without puncturing those stitches. And I'll meet you right back here. All right, I've got that trimmed up. The little curve in here was a little bit of a challenge, and it's not 100% pretty, but it doesn't have to be because the fabric is going to be covering this, okay? So now with the white thread that you still have in the top of the machine, let's do the next stitch, which is just going to be the placement line for the fabric. So foot down, white thread on top. Here we go. Okay, now that it has the placement line stitched out, I'm going to pull my top fabric. I'm using the white with the little polka dots for the top, and then this darker teal one for the back. So we're going to put the back fabric off to one side. This is the fabric I'm looking to put down. Okay, I'm going to make sure I cover that placement line for the hanger on all sides. Okay. So I can do right about there. And then I can actually feel the sides and say, okay, I want to center it. That's good. I can bring it over just a little bit more. And feel for the bottom of the flexi foam. I know I'm covering, and then go to all the way at the top. I can pull that up just a little bit more up there to make sure I'm covering all four sides. So feel for that flexi foam. Make sure you've got your fabric covering on all sides. So now let's go ahead. I'm going to tape this fabric down just ever so slightly so it doesn't move, using the same tape that we used earlier. So I'm just going to do 3 sides. I'll use my stylist to hold this bottom section down. All right. So we're going to still use white thread that we have on the top of the machine. Let's put the foot down and let's tack down this fabric. Here we go. Okay. I don't like the way that it's moving here with the tape, so I'm going to use my stylus to help hold the fabric down as it comes over the foam, because I don't want the fabric to wrinkle up as it's coming around the corner here. There we go. That's better. Sometimes it'll do that on a curve, and I don't want to have to take stitches out because the fabric wrinkled up. So I'm just going to use my stylus just to kind of hold that fabric in place. There we go. We're good. It's going to run around again. We're good. This is going to be so cute. All right, so I'm going to take off the tape. Again, just put it on the edge of my table so maybe I can use it again. Get several uses out of it. And that one came off. That's good. All right, so now we're going to do the quilting. This is like my favorite part. So I'm going to choose the white thread to do my quilting in. If you want to spice it up a little bit, you can change your thread color out. to whatever you'd like the crisscross quilting to be. But I'm going to leave it as white so it'll blend in with the fabric. And then the design that says welcome to my happy place will kind of be the item that pops out. So I'm going to do my quilting in white. All right. You pick the thread color of your choice for your quilting. Put that on the top of the machine. Put the foot down and let's stitch out the quilting. This is roughly a 3-minute in real life stitch out. Here we go. Isn't that pretty? I love the dimension that flexi foam gives. That is so pretty. All right, so now we're going to switch it up and we're going to change the color thread we have on the top of our machine. And we're going to put in a peachy salmon because we're going to be doing some little flowers or like inserts of flowers. So put your salmon color thread up in the top of your machine. And then we will stitch this out. This is like a 1-minute stitch out once we get it threaded. Very easy. All right, let me get my white thread out. Salmon in. Okay, you ready? All right, let's stitch this out. Foot down, and here we go. Let's stitch out little flower inserts. All right, that's cute. Let me get rid of this little stray thread there. And now we're going to stitch out a, what is it called? It's a spool cap fill. All right, we're going to use the same color, the peachy salmon. All right, put the foot down and let's stitch this out. This is also a 1-minute stitch out. Okay, so now I'm going to put in my clover green thread because we're going to stitch the placement line for the little spool. And this clover is going to look really cute coordinating with that little piece of fabric. So put in your clover green thread, or if you want to switch it up and make your spool of thread here a different color, go for it. Do whatever you like. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. You can switch it up if you want. If you get a loop when you thread your needle, get that out, because if you leave the loop there, it could get twisted around your foot, break a needle, or worse, it could damage your machine. So I always get those loops out. All right, this is again, 1-minute stitch out. It's going to be the placement line for the thread spool. So let's put the foot down, stitch this out. Here we go. Okay, so now we're going to take that little green piece of fabric, figure out which side is the top and which side is the bottom, and we're going to put it top side up. With solids, it really doesn't matter too much. And we're going to place that right on top of that spool. You can tape it down or do what I do. On this piece, I'm just going to hold it with my stylus. Put the foot down, and it's going to tack down this green piece of fabric using the same green thread we had up above. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, now I want you to take the hoop gently off your machine. Take this over to a table, and I want you to very carefully trim around the outside of that stitch line and trim away all of this extra fabric on the outside only. And then I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so we've got that trimmed up all around the outside edge. Now I'm going to stitch the decorative outline in the same color clover green thread that I have up above. Just put the foot down and let's stitch the outside decorative detail. Here we go. This is a 1-minute stitch out. That's very pretty. All right, so the next color thread they recommend is kind of, I think they call it a thyme, which is kind of a blue-green or like a, it's actually more like a darker mint. This is the mint I'm going to be using later in the project. So I chose this as a slightly darker mint, and this is going to be what I call my thyme or thyme color. I think it's called thyme, if I'm saying that right. So anyway, that's the color thread I'm going to put in now. You put in the color thread that you've chosen for your thyme color, and we will put that in. Again, it's not the mint green, it's slightly darker than the mint green. Not by much, just a little bit. All right, that's the color thread they chose. And this, I think, will be a nice accent. It'll be a lighter green on that. So let's put the foot down and stitch this out. Again, in real time, this is only a minute stitch out. You got this. Okay, that looks really nice with that other green. I like that combination. Okay, so now we're going to start doing a little flower. And the flower it wants to start with is in the color Tropical, if you're following along with Kimberbell's color choices. So what I basically did for this project is when I got all my threads, I knew I had to pick 3 blues. A tropical, a middle blue, which, let's see what they called it, Zaffy, and then a darker blue, which I'm going to use for space. So I chose 3 blues that I liked for my project. That's basically what you want to do. You want to pick 3 blues that look good together. That is definitely a lighter blue, then a medium, and then a darker blue. And what we're going to put in the machine right now is the lighter of the 3 blues. Okay, it's called Tropical. I'm going to put that thread on top of my machine. You do the same on your machine. Pick the lighter blue of your 3 colors and load your machine. And then we're going to stitch out a flower. Oops, see I have a loop. Let me get that out. All right, let's stitch out the flower. We'll fast forward, but this is only a 1-minute in real life stitch out. Very good. Let me get rid of that start thread. There, it's cute. Now we're going to stitch a little banner, and it's going to be in the exact same color that we just did. So you just put your foot down, stitch this out. This is a 3-minute in real life stitch out. Here we go. I love that. That blue thread actually matches those little polka dots in the fabric almost perfectly. I love it. All right, so now we're going to switch out our thread, and we're going to put a white thread up on the top of our machine because we want to stitch out the words to my on the top of that banner. So white thread will show up the best. So let's put that in. I like that recommendation. And load the thread in your machine. And we'll stitch this out. This also shows about a 1 minute stitch out. All right, here we go. Enjoy. Okay, I'm going to stop it, put my foot up because I want to get that stray starter thread out of there because I don't want that to go into the other letters. And I can put the foot back down and continue stitching. Very pretty. Okay, now I want to put a smoke silver thread in my machine. And what I've done is I've picked out the two silvers, the lighter and the darker, and this one that I want to put in right now is the lighter of the two. Save the darker for the other part of the project. So put that lighter silver thread in the top of your machine, and then we're going to stitch out, I think it's the blade fill. Yes, it's the blade fill. All right, so let me load my needle. And this is a 1 minute stitch out. You ready? You got this. Let's go. Okay, that looks good. Now we're going to stitch the handle. So Kimberbell has their color as the medium blue of the 3 blue colors that we picked out. So I've got my medium blue thread, and I'm going to put that in the top of my machine. You do the same for yours. What is your medium blue color that you chose for this project? Put that in the top of your machine. You can do this step by step. This is how we succeed in the projects, is by going one step at a time. See that loop? Get that loop out. We're good to go. Foot down. Let's stitch out the handle. This is a 1 minute stitch out. And I'm going to stop, and I'm going to get that starter thread out and let it continue. That looks so pretty. All right, so now the next thread that we're going to be putting in, Kimberbell calls Bloom. It's kind of a burgundy, pinkish red. I actually went a little more fuchsia pink than burgundy because I love pink and my studio is pinks and turquoises and purples. So I kind of went a little more on the hot pink side so it'll blend and look great with my studio. So you pick which color thread you would like in the top of your machine and put that in. This is going to be for the little tip on the end of the seam ripper and also the words, "Welcome to my happy place." So it's kind of like your main color. So you pick that color that you want those two things to be. And I got a loop. Get that loop out. Here we go. Wasn't that easy? Okay, let's get rid of the starting thread. Okay, now I'm going to use that same color thread for the main saying. Welcome, and then it'll say to my, which is already there, and then happy place. This is a 5 minute and real life stitch out. So let's put the foot down, sit back, and enjoy the stitch out. Here we go. I love how that turned out. This is just so pretty. I love my choice of the hot pink thread. I am loving that. So I hope you picked a color thread that matches with your studio. All right, so now I'm going to take that thread out. And I want to put a white thread in the top of the machine. Okay. White thread up on top. Load my machine. Get that loop out. Okay, so now take the hoop off your machine. Gently turn it over so it's now upside down. See that? There you go. So now we're going to get the backing fabric, which is this pretty dark teal, and we want to cover this project. So you don't have to do a placement line because we can follow the placement line in the stitch out from the previous stitching. So we're just going to line it up roughly with the bottom of the other fabric and the top of the other fabric that we can see through the hoop, which covers all of that stitching. Okay, so I can double check. Yeah, I've got that covered. I've got it covered on all 4 sides. All right, then we have to tape it. And I'm going to use a little bit more tape than I did on the top because we're going to flip this over. And so I want it to stay in place until it can get stitched down by that white thread that we just loaded. So I want a little bit more tape. And this one came off in a little smaller piece, which I can still use for the top and the bottom. Okay. So now that the tape is in place, turn the hoop gently over so it's back to being right side up. And I actually put my hand underneath and make sure that the fabric is still nice and flat. And then load it back on your machine. All right. So now with the white thread up above, it's going to go around the door hanger again. And in reality, it's stitching that back piece of fabric now onto the project. So this is a 1-minute stitch out. You ready? Here we go. Foot down. Let's do it. White thread is still up on top. Okay, so now I want to take the hoop gently off the machine, turn it upside down again, and there we go. It attached it. We're looking good. Okay, so now I want you to take all of the tape off. This is a very gentle tape, so it comes off pretty easily. And if it got caught by the stitches, not a problem. It's like a paper tape. It just comes right off. It doesn't have super stick, but it has enough stick that it keeps the project in place, but then doesn't make it impossible to get off. So I like that. All right. So we're looking good. So now I want you to take this over to a table and I want you to trim just on the outside of that stitch line, and I want you to trim off all of this excess fabric all the way around, and then go on the inside here of the loop, and then trim away all of this excess fabric as close to the stitch line as you can without nicking the stitch line. All right, then I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so now I've got that all trimmed up on the outside. I came in here and I trimmed up the inside here of the door hanger and all the way around. So that is the back. That's done. So now I want you to gently flip the hoop back over. Very gently. There we go. And I want you now to do the same exact thing on the front side. trim as close to that outside stitch line as you can, getting rid of all of this excess fabric all the way around, and then also come in here and trim away the excess fabric from the inside of that door hanger, and then I'll meet you right back here again. All right, so I've got that trimmed up as well on the inside and all the way around the outside edges. Looks good. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just has to be as close as you can, so then the satin stitches will cover it. And speaking of the satin stitches, that's where we are right now. Now, before we do this, you need to choose what color thread you want for your outside edge. I love the fact that this is a white fabric, so I'm thinking I'm just going to do my satin stitches in white thread. You want a matching color bobbin down below. So luckily I've got white thread down below and I've got white thread up on top, and that is what I'm choosing to do the outside satin stitches of my door hanger in. But say I wanted to do it in hot pink. I would put hot pink thread up on top, but I also need to wind a bobbin with that hot pink thread down below so that the front and the back of the project will match. You don't want hot pink on front and white bobbin showing on the back. You want it to match. So if you do blue thread on top and a matching blue bobbin down below. All right. So pick the color that you want your satin stitches to be. Put a matching bobbin down below, load your thread up on top, and we're going to put the foot down and we're going to stitch out this beautiful satin stitch. I'm choosing white, so I'm ready to go. You ready to go? You got your color in? Okay, so we're going to start. It's a 16-minute in real life stitch out. Of course, we'll fast forward so it doesn't take that long here, but sit back, relax, and enjoy the stitch out. Here we go. I love me a good satin stitch. Look how beautiful that is and how it just finishes off that door hanger perfectly. Love that. And let's look at the back. Back looks really good as well. That's great. Okay, so you just finished the large door hanger. Congratulations, you did it. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this out of the hoop and I'm going to put it aside for just a few minutes while I show you real quick how to make the small version. I'll show you how to load the design on the machine, and then I'll fast forward through the steps. The steps are going to be the same as what we just did. It's just going to be a smaller version of it. We'll make the small one, and then I will show you how to finish off both of them. All right. So if you're only interested in finishing this off, just fast forward toward the end of the video where I will show you how to finish this up. But if not, you could just sit back and relax and watch as I show you how to make the smaller version. Here we go. Okay, I still have about a half of bobbin left of white thread down below, so I'm going to leave that there. I have loaded my 5x7" hoop with a piece of the wash away stabilizer. Again, you want the wash away because we need to dissolve it when we're done. But I'm using a 5x7 hoop. Put that on my machine. Now let's go to the screen cam and load the design. Okay, so it still has the 6x10 design on here. I want to go home on my screen. Okay, to delete the selected pattern, I want to say yes. Go back to embroidery. Go back to my flash drive. Go back to the Bella box. Go back to the Happy Place door hanger. And now I want to load the 5x7 design. Don't have to do anything to it. Click set. Again, click embroidery. All right, so we are ready to stitch out the smaller version. And like I mentioned earlier, the steps are the same. And I'm going to start by white thread up on top for the placement line for the flexi foam. Here we go. Okay, one quick reminder before I fast forward through the rest of it. Make sure you have fusible on the back of both your front piece here and your back piece. Okay, fusible on the back side. And this is the piece that was left over from the Bella kit. And you know what? It's gonna fit. I'm so excited. I was hoping it would fit, and it does. So I am one happy camper. Make sure I got all sides covered. Yep. We're just going to tape this down. And we have enough to do 2 hangers out of this kit. That's amazing. Thank you so much, Kimberbell and Me Time. I love that it just fits. Okay. A little bit more on the top, and I don't need one on the tip top because it overlaps. All right, so now we'll fast forward. This step is going to be stitching down the flexi foam. Here we go. Okay, so now I'm going to take the tape off. Yeah, you can only reuse the tape a couple times and then it stops sticking as well. But that's okay. It served its purpose. Then I'm going to take the hoop gently off the machine and I want you to trim around the outside of that stitch line and get rid of all of the extra flexi foam around all sides, and I'll meet you right back here. All right, so I got that all trimmed up, put the hoop back on the machine, and now we're ready to leave white thread up on top, and we're going to stitch out the placement line for the fabric. All right, now I'm going to take the top fabric and I'm going to place it over that flexi foam and cover it. We're going to have plenty of fabric left over because this was actually cut based on the size for the large one. So I'm going to save a little bit of fabric by scooting it up. And then I'm going to feel for the edge here of the flexi foam. So I can kind of see that I'm centered. I know I got more than enough up on top. And I got plenty of room on each side. Now you can go ahead and tape it down like we did last time, or this time I'm just going to use my hand to hold it, keep my fingers away from the moving needle, and use my stylus for when it gets near. And I'm just going to hold the fabric down in its place, all right? White thread still on top. Let's tack down this fabric. Okay, see, sometimes that works easier just by using your hand and the stylus. All right, so now I'm going to put the foot down and I'm going to do the quilting, favorite part, about a 2-minute stitch out. I'm going to use white thread still on top so the white quilting will blend in to the fabric. Here we go. You got this. Okay, now we're ready to stitch all the details. I'm not going to stop in between each color. I'm just going to show the color here as we fast forward through so you know which color I'm switching off. But the step is the same as what we did for the first door hanger, the larger one. All right, so we're going to start with the salmon. We're going to use this for the next 2 stitches, okay? You got this. Here we go. One step at a time. You ready? Okay. Okay, so now we've got all that cute stitching done. We're going to take the hoop off the machine, turn it upside down, and get your backing fabric. We're going to cover all that placement line just like we did before, making sure we have oodles on all sides, and then we have to tape this down. Because of the fact that we have to turn the hoop upside down, that means we need to tape this so that it doesn't move in that process. I'm going to put a little bit more up there. And let me move this one down. A little bit this way. And a little bit up here. And then what I'm going to do, put that down a little bit flatter there, is I'm also going to use my hand like this as I turn it over, make sure it's flat when I put it back on the hoop. This kind of helps keep it in place. And I can also see up here it's in place. All right, so now I've got white thread up above. Now it's going to stitch around this hanger and it's going to tack down that back fabric. Here we go. Oop, there we go. Okay, so now we're going to gently take the hoop off the machine and we're going to turn it over. And we like the look at the back, so now we're going to take all that tape off. I think that's about as many times as we can use it. Yeah, you can really pretty much reuse it 2 to 3 times, and then it loses its stickiness. So thank you, tape, for your service. I appreciate that. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim right on the outside of that stitch line, and I'm going to trim away all of this excess fabric on the back, and then flip it on the front side and do the same thing on the front. On the outside, get rid of all that excess fabric, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, so you see I trimmed around the outside, and then I came in here and I trimmed away that fabric from the inside of the hanger part. And I also did the same thing for the front. Isn't that cool? All right, I'm looking at my bobbin, and I don't think I have enough to get through the satin stitch right there. So I'm going to swap that out and put a new one in, because I really don't like stopping in the middle of a nice satin stitch to restart again. Sometimes you get a little bump in your satin stitch as you're trying to back up the machine a few stitches and restart and try to get it smooth, but there's usually always a bump, and no one else will probably see it, but I would see it. So I always try to put in a new bobbin so I get a nice clean satin stitch around the outside edge, because this is a 12-minute stitch out. Then I can go back and use that other bobbin for the next project. All right, so I'm good. Make sure I got my needle threaded. I'm going to thread it one more time. And I'm choosing white thread as well to match the satin stitch. And I've got white bobbin down below. So again, remember, if you want to change it to blue, put blue thread on top and then put a bobbin with blue thread down below. So your top and your bottom threads will match. All right, let's sit back and we'll fast forward through this. Enjoy the stitch out of a beautiful satin stitch edge. Here we go. All right, so I hope you love your door hanger. Let's go ahead and take the hoop off the machine, take the door hanger out of the hoop, and let's go over to the table, and I'm going to show you how to finish both of these door hangers up. All right, aren't these adorable? I love how they turned out, and satin stitching around the edge. It just finishes everything off. I know I always say that, but I just can't help it because it's just so gorgeous. So we're ready to finish these up. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get some scissors. I want to cut around and get rid of the excess around the outside. This is water-soluble stabilizer. And especially with a large one, if you cut off the excess, you can actually stitch them together and use them for something else. Or even these would probably be big enough to fit in a 4x4 hoop. You can use it for an ornament or something. So again, I hate waste. So what I do is I just go for 1/4 inch or 1/8 of an inch, somewhere around in between, so that you're getting the excess off around the outside of the hanger, but don't nick those satin stitches. Be very careful. See, I'm somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4. I'm not quite a full 1/4, but it doesn't need to be perfect. You're just trying to get the bulk of it around, and maybe you could cut these two and sew these two pieces together and get a larger piece to use for something else. That's my main goal in doing that. Okay, then I'll go in the middle just to make this a little bit easier. Not that I'm going to reuse this piece, but it'll make it easier when we go to actually get rid of this, because we're going to use a Q-tip with a little bit of water on it. Throw that out. Then we're going to get rid of that little bit that's around the edges. Let's do the same thing for here. Okay. Any chance that you can use, materials for another project, I'm willing to go the extra little mile here to trim stuff up, because this is a lot of waste if you don't, and supplies are getting really expensive nowadays. So if you can save a little bit and get a couple extra projects out of the same materials, then you can have more fun for the same amount of money. You know what I mean? Because look at how big this is. That's what's left over. So I can cut it, sew some pieces together, simple zigzag stitch, and use that for an ornament or something for another day. All right. Oh, let's get the inside of this cut. Like so. And this will also save your table or your towel from having more gook on it too, because you're getting the bulk of that all squared away. So I want your door hangers to look like that. This next part's really easy. I'm just going to get a little towel to work on, and I'm going to grab the first door hanger. Okay, I have a little bowl that I poured a little bit of water in. Okay, I'll put that right there. And I'm just going to use a Q-tip. This is easy peasy. The goal is to put the Q-tip on and dissolve what is on the edge. That's water-soluble stabilizer. Okay, and you'll just put it on. It takes a while to dissolve. Each company, usually on their instructions, will let you know how long it takes for this water soluble to dissolve. See, this is starting to get soft, and there it is. Just comes right off. Look at that. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward through this. I'm just going to get this all wet and let the water do its thing all the way around on the edge of the satin stitch, and do all this, And come back and look. See, this is already dissolving. Look at that. Ta-da! It just comes right off. Look at that. Okay, so let's fast forward through this and let's get all of this water soluble off of this door hanger. Okay, here we go. Okay, and you can tell it gets kind of goopy. So I try to use the Q-tip, even the stick, to get the majority of this off, because it will get sticky goopy. Almost like tacky glue. If you know what the texture of tacky glue is, it's kind of what it feels like when it's done. All right, so we've got all of that off, the small one. I'm going to lay that right over there to rest. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the large one. I'm going to flip it over and use the new end of the Q-tip. And let's fast forward and let's get the water-soluble stabilizer off this large one. Okay, so now I got the goop. See, it's all like sticky goopy like that. All over that. But that's great. All right. So I got that off. I'm just going to put that in the water. Now the trick is, I'll get rid of the Q-tip in the trash, but you don't want to put that water down your sink. Okay. You want to take that outside, put it in a trash can, because this goop that's on this is in the water, and if you put it down your drain, it will goop up your drains. So you don't want to dispose of that anywhere in your indoor pipes, all right? So I just dispose of that outside, okay? So now I've got this one lying flat to dry, and now I want to put this one and just lay it flat. Let it dry. I usually let mine dry overnight. And then it's ready to hang. It's ready to use. So you did it. Congratulations. I hope you had as much fun making these adorable door hangers as I did. Thank you so much again to Kimberbell and Me Time for sponsoring this video and sending me this so I can show you how to make this. This was a lot of fun. So stay tuned here on Jolly Molly TV for the next video, or spoiler alert, I'm going to be showing you how to do a bonus design on one of these door hangers. So stay tuned for that. So until I see you again, have a great day and happy stitching. Take care. Bye-bye.